Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be seeing how to convert Cartesian or rectangular equations to polar equation. Now, first and foremost, let me explain what are Cartesian or rectangular equations. Cartesian or rectangular equations, they come in the form of x and y. That is, you have them in the form of x and y. And your polar equations, they come in the form of r and theta, where r is actually radius and theta is the angle the radius makes with the x-axis. Now, they are always in the form of here is the Cartesian plane, here is the Cartesian plane, this is my y, and here also is my x. Here I will have a y value here. If I have it this way, then I have an x value. Here forms my r. My area is the radius. We assume that I have a circle all around it this way. So that here is the r, and this r makes an angle of what? Theta. So I can express r here, r squared here, we know is equals to y squared plus x squared. Now, this is, let me bring this out. That's the r, here is a y, and here is the x, and here is my theta. So that from SOHCAHTOA, we know that my x over r is equals to cos theta. That is, my x here is the adjacent and my r here is the hypotenuse. And also, so that x now will be the same thing as r cos theta. And my y obviously over r is the same thing as r sine theta. So that my y now will be the same thing as, sorry, I already took r sine theta. There's no r here initially, but at the end of the day, this becomes r sine theta. Now, if we have defined x here, and we have defined y here, we can now apply them to solve this equation. Now let's get to it. The question says I should convert y squared is equals to 3 minus x squared to polar form. First thing I want to do is to rearrange so that y squared plus x squared is equals to 3. Now, in converting to polar form, we have defined that y is equals to r sine theta, and we have said that x is equals to r cos theta. So I can easily replace each of my y and my x with these values, so that in place of y, I'll have r sine theta all squared, plus in place of x, I'll still have r cos theta all squared is equals to 3. Now, so that r squared sine squared theta plus r squared cos squared theta is equals to 3. Obviously, I can bring out r squared here. That will become into sine squared theta plus cos squared theta is equals to 3. Now, we know that sine squared theta plus cos squared theta is 1. So that r squared now is equals to 3. This is from trigonometry identities. R sine squared theta plus cos squared theta is equals to 1. If r squared is equals to 3, obviously I can say that r is equals to the root of 3. I've simply found the square root of both sides. Now, at this junction, I can easily express my polar form or my polar equation to be the same thing as root 3 at an angle of what? Theta. Now, this is another question. This question says that my y plus 4 all squared plus x squared is equals to 16. Now, the same thing we did, we are going to replace y now to be equals to r sine theta, and I'm going to replace x again to be the same thing as r cos theta. But before we start replacing, I want us to break this part of the equation down. If I expand this part of that equation, we know that y plus 4 all squared will be the same thing as y plus 4 into y plus 4. So that this is the same thing as y squared plus 8y plus 16 if you expand this. So I can replace my equation in here with y squared plus 8y plus 16 plus x squared is equals to 16. Obviously, I can collect like terms so that y squared plus 8y plus x squared is equals to 16 minus 16, which is equals to 0. So that y squared now plus 8y plus x squared is equals to 0. Now I can now begin to replace my y and x with r sine theta and r cos theta. So that in place of y here, I'll have r sine theta all squared plus 8 again into r sine theta plus r cos theta all squared to be equals to 0. Now if r cos theta, now if r sine squared theta, this is r squared sine squared theta plus 8r sine theta plus r squared cos squared theta is equals to 0. I know that sine squared theta plus cos squared theta is equals to 1. So I can collect like terms between r squared sine squared theta and r squared cos squared theta. Let's get into another. So that if I'm collecting like terms, I'll be saying that r squared sine squared theta plus r squared cos squared theta plus, I think that's 8r sine theta, okay? 8r sine theta is equals to 0. So that r squared now into sine squared theta plus cos squared theta plus 8r sine theta is equals to 0. So that r sine squared theta plus cos squared theta, obviously that's 1. This is r squared plus 8r sine theta is equals to 0. Now I have r squared and I have 8r. I can factorize so that I have r into r plus 8 sine theta is equals to 0. Obviously, here I have two values. R is equals to 0. That becomes a solution. Then the next solution is r plus 8 sine theta is equals to 0. So that r from here is equals to minus 8 sine theta. Here is a solution. I've been able to convert this from rectangular or Cartesian form to polar form. So this help you understand how to walk through converting from rectangular Cartesian to polar form. Thank you for staying with us and see you in another.